Hello, everyone, and welcome to Padawan Unlimited. I am Gil, today joined by Corey and Rob, as per usual. How are you guys doing?
Yo, yo.
Hello there.
I love it. I found out today, or the other day, I found out that there's another Unlimited account. His name is like Space Bear Unlimited. He had a really good video about the Denver sector qualifiers. And
Okay.
I was like, oh no, now I feel like I was copying him, even though I don't know he existed. Space Bear Unlimited. Video was really good. He got to interview like a staff member of FFG, which was really cool because like I haven't done that yet. And apparently
Right.
they're like bros that have gone back like years,
Oh, wow.
you know.
Okay.
So
We'll have to get someone on the pod then.
yeah, I know.
Have
I
to-
should.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've tried, right? So that's fair.
You're just gonna ambush Tyler at the next con that you're at.
Yeah, I should. Maybe not. Maybe I won't ambush, but maybe I'll like I don't know, smuggle myself into his
Send
room.
an official media request.
Official
Do it the
meeting.
right way, Gil.
We're close. I mean, like we're I feel like we're good. We're right there to become official content creators because now that we've gotten a little bit more like viewership and we've had some like hits on the videos, like I feel like I should ask.
Thanks to
I
all
should,
of you guys.
yeah, thanks to all the listeners out there. Which shout out to a couple players, a couple users out there. Uh, and Ando Commander, he gave some feedback about the survey that we did with the raffle, um, for the convention pack. He gave some really good feedback,
Hmm.
and I thought it was fair because it's not everyone can listen the day of. And there's people who probably listen to us and they're like on a lag time. Like he's not the only person that's talked to me about catching up on like the episodes. So I don't, I think what we'll do in the future is every time we do like a raffle or survey or something, we'll extend it out to like 2 weeks instead of like 1 week at a time to give people the appropriate amount of time to like actually listen in. You know,
Sure.
yeah.
Definitely. It's
So
fair.
yeah, no, and I appreciate everyone who listens, regardless of the timing of it all. And your
Yeah,
feedback,
definitely.
yeah, your feedback's amazing. Like I love the comments. I try to respond to every single one. I think I might have missed like maybe two or three out of like the entire like lifespan of this podcast and like um YouTube channel. So anyway, thank you for the feedback, guys. And if anyone who's listening has anything like that, feel free to add like or put that in the comments or send me an email at gil@padawanunlimited.com. I love it. So we had a lot of news come out
I
within
don't
the
know what you're
last week.
talking about. There's been no zero news
So
today.
it is
Zero.
April 9th, 2025 at 8 p.m. while we're doing this recording. And that is a dirty lie that no news came out. Before we go into what probably people want to hear about more, aka FFG news for like competitive play, I like that. Let's stick with the format we've been doing, which is like let's talk about the collection first. So and like the state of the collection, maybe not even our own personal collections, but hint, hint, what might be happening in the future for collections. Uh,
Sure.
Well, and
Mm.
honestly, there's this news I think is kind of getting buried behind today's news, but I think it's very big news. It was yesterday's news.
yeah, yesterday's. So Corey, take us away, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we heard rumblings about the Legends of the Force, and we got some reveals for them, and so very exciting. It feels like it's so fast. Like we just got into jump to Lightspeed, and now here we are with Legends of the Force. We're getting the spotlight decks, we're getting the mats, we're getting the different packs. They showed the artwork for the booster boxes
Yeah,
for the Carbonite packs.
yeah,
Vader on the cover of those
Yep,
packs.
that Vader
yo,
Prestige is gonna be
Yep.
bananas.
And even more exciting is we're getting mass market packs.
Yep.
So if you don't know what that means, essentially, instead of having to go to like a collectible store or gaming store or something where you can get the individual packs that people open from their boosters, you will
mm-hmm.
have single packs marketed and packaged for the big retailers like Target, like Walmart. And so, just like when you go to see those Pokemon decks and those Magic decks or cards and even Lorcana, we'll be out there. Star Wars is going to be out there in the world in the wild for those
that
casuals.
that is
That I
fantastic.
mean, Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that news is huge. The the way that games like this begin to get longevity, particularly outside of Magic, because Magic has just been around since the 90s, and that's why it's everywhere. But for Lorcana, for Pokemon, for all these cards being sold in a Walmart means you're going to have people who may not have been exposed to the hobby world. They may not have ever set foot in a hobby store, and they're going to see this game on like a Target shelf, and you're going to get. I do think it's going to lead to an influx of players
Oh yeah,
because of that. Because
yeah,
it's Star Wars IP, so for everyone who's not a hobbyist, now you're like, oh, there's a card game. Like you walk into Walmart, you're like, oh, there's a card game that has Star Wars IP. Let me check this out, and I think you're going to get a lot of people starting to play it due
oh,
to that.
100%. You've heard me say this like for like months at this point. Like, what is FFG doing? Or like the game for longevity needs to appeal to like a broader market, like kids and women and children and all types of like other demographics. You can't just stick to like the middle aged like dude demographic. And not that I can necessarily against that, but like if you want to go for more than 2 years, you need to have a big base, and this is fantastic because like this is fantastic for the community, I think. And they talked about how they have like a 20-year plan or something. Like they want this to go for like 20 years. So like if you're investing like in like some of these cards, that's good stuff.
Good to hear. It's good to hear, and they even mentioned that in the stream yesterday as well, with the fact that they're planning on sets in the future, and like we have 10, 12 like sets already planned out and being worked on. So knowing that like we have years of development already taking place, that's very encouraging for the game, and hopefully with this mass market pack, we will get an influx of players that, like Rob, you were saying, like people don't know what they don't know. It's like
Yep.
we are in this hobby, so we're all in it. We know, like, what the heck? Like, it's obvious for us, and if you're listening to this podcast, obviously you're a fan of Star Wars or something because you're here. But the people that don't necessarily know what a trading card game is, or that
We'll
this
know
is
of it
even
outside
a
of like
thing.
Pokemon.
Yeah, like my coworker is very new to the game because he just found out, like a year later, just found out about the game. And so yeah, it's still bringing in new people, which is really cool.
Yeah.
If you need set one bulk, I've got plenty.
Save that bulk because
We all
that's like
do.
that's not that I don't know if they're gonna ever reprint that. As they did one reprint,
That's
but like
fair.
you don't know what's gonna happen. That's like the alpha set, like all those like we think about how showcases have gone down in value. We think about like the carbonite packs that may not be doing as well as we thought in terms of retaining value, right? Not they actually sold out really well, but like you have to think that if you get an influx of new players from the mass markets and they start to collect and they see that there's exclusive cards out there that they're like a year away from, they're going to buy that up. They're going to try to get it, especially if they're doing the collection, which is good for collectors, right? Or not collectors, investors in the game, right?
That's the different. Yeah, that is a significant difference there.
Yeah.
And what I do hope actually is the carbonite packs that we got. It felt like a good number of packs, but I actually kind of want it to be rarer in a way because it wasn't hard to get them, and it wasn't necessarily difficult to collect the carbonites and the prestige cards. Although I don't have full sets of everything, but I do think they're still out there, still available. So
what are you talking about? You got a place at Bars, bro.
well, no, not anymore.
Not anymore, but yeah.
Which, by the way, shout out Hope SWU, TY SWU got his card.
Yeah.
So I'll chat him like after this. I'm like, hey, did you get it yet? But you know what's
what deck?
What deck? So I will say though, one last thing about like this mass market kind of appeal. Maybe two things, but you have to think they did the carbonite stuff with just us, right? Like just like this core group of like maybe 10,000 people who like are all like really into the game. And once that goes to the mass markets and they only produce the same run line of like 30,000 boxes, like those are going to be like potentially Pokemon level like scarcity because
But yeah.
Yeah, because that's gonna be the first set people are gonna go out for. They're gonna be like, oh, they're gonna Google it. They're gonna be like, what is this? Oh, there's like this special like box that you can get, and it's all these Force users that look really dope. Like, I mean,
Darth Vader's on the cover.
Yeah.
yeah, with Darth
So,
Vader on the cover,
It does price out a lot of people though. Like the
Yeah,
casuals that are playing this game are not necessarily spending or dropping $300 to $600
Yeah.
for 2 boxes or a box.
well,
But yeah.
I guess what I mean is
But-
like when you get like out of 10,000 new people, you're gonna get like 100 that are gonna be really invested in it. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, sure.
a small percentage.
Yeah, no, I mean,
and those
percentages.
yeah, the percentages,
yeah.
and like that's gonna make it harder for like us to get to get that product because now there's again new masses, which is good for the game longevity, but for us who like have this like, oh, it's pretty nice, it's easy to get carbonite boxes. That's not necessarily gonna be the case in the future. Sorry, Rob, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, my only caveat to this, I actually don't think it's gonna be this set. I think it's actually gonna this upcoming set, Legends of the Fourth. I think it's gonna be a set after, because if this is the first mass market set, you're gonna get you get a couple people who are gonna be doing it, but more often than not, it'll probably have the ability for them to like pre-order them and get them. Will pass them by. It's gonna be the set after, once we get people in the door with Legends of the Force, that the third round of Carbonates is gonna be probably a little bit more difficult, would be my guess.
Okay, fair enough. Well, we'll see at the middle of July, end of July, where that lands. We can only predict.
What was the third one? Like the Secrets
I thought it was
of Power or
June,
something?
right?
Secrets of Power.
Secrets of
Something
Power,
like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Right.
July. It's gonna be mid July or beginning of July,
That's July,
where they
yeah.
where the Legends of the Force releases. So,
It's going to be before the Galactic Championship.
yes, it has, and maybe
Correct.
maybe that's by design, like why they kind of revealed
it
stuff
is.
early, because now you could keep testing
Mhm.
for it, which they talked about it, like they're not going to preemptively ban anyone yet, but they are aware that there's going to be power
Suspend.
spikes.
Yeah. Well, I guess maybe we should talk about that then, Gil.
Yeah, we should. Okay, so all right, so that was good collection talk. Again, pretty good news for just longevity of the game. Maybe not so good news for local game stores, because now they have to compete against big boxes. But aside from that, we had some meta news. Rob, do you want to regale us of what finally happened or what we thought might happen?
Well, it really wasn't that big of a deal, was it, guys? I mean, no. So, for those of you who have not heard the news, I'd be surprised if you haven't at this point. We had 3 suspensions drop today. We'll do the small one first, which was DJ, which is still not an insignificant suspension, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But the ones that everybody has been talking about, and that is Django and TDR. Both got suspended today.
Triple Dark Raid. Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, Triple Dark Raid.
Dark Raid.
Yeah. So big shakeups to the meta, and I have my opinions about TDR, but I think the other 2 were definitely warranted. Just for those of you, if you haven't been paying attention to the numbers, we'll talk about TDR.
No,
Don't worry, we'll get there. We'll get
reacting.
there.
Okay, go ahead.
But for those of you who haven't been paying attention to the numbers, we did mention it last week, but at Milan, Django was like 15 of 16, 7 of 8, it basically dominated the top 16. And the representation at both Liverpool and Denver were equally lopsided for Django.
Yeah.
And the reasons for this, again, if you didn't watch the stream, and I think everybody who is from the FFG team that was on the stream articulated it very well. The problem is that Django creates a non-interactive play space. So with him flipping on 5, you can immediately play a War Juggernaut or another unit that deals out damage to tap down a board, and it means that not only does it prevent your opponent from attacking, but it keeps Django out on the board longer, which means that the longer he's out there, the more you can do it, and it creates this sort of gameplay loop that they really didn't want to see. As far as DJ is concerned, the reason that the DJ ban came down the way that they articulated it, and again, I agree with this assessment, was that it basically Han Tech DJ was out controlling control decks. It prevented really an entire archetype of card game, archetypes being played. So for those of you who aren't familiar, you have three major archetypes and subtypes within there, but the three major archetypes are aggro, meaning you go fast, go hard at an opponent's life total. You have mid range, which plays sort of larger units that tend to end a game a little bit slower than an aggro deck, but can they basically get value for coming out. And then you have control decks, which basically try to delay your opponent from doing things until you can drop something that ends the game in like 1 or 2 turns.
Yeah. So before we get too technical, because there's gonna be a lot of technical discussion about like
there will be
all the archetypes that are affected and what main decks might be affected. Is this a good move?
Absolutely. They killed my boy, but 100% this is for the health of the game. And like I said, and I may have my own kind of personal feelings about TDR, but regardless of my own feelings about it, I think there is it was a problem, and this is ultimately done for the health of the game, which is good.
Yeah. It has to be. It had to happen. It had to happen. When you have a tournament, and it's not even like, because it wasn't like Django's 50% played in the overall tournament. It was like 25-ish%, let's say.
Yeah, but
the conversion rate that was happening with Django. Well, let me finish. The conversion rate that was happening is what was is alarming and disturbing, and like the fact that it's going to be happening. So let's say like you have these yellow decks that are, and it's all like we talked about like last time, like yellow decks, cunning decks is what it is, and TDR with jump to light speed became just an outrageous card that made the game unfun for a lot of people. And I know people personally that stopped playing because of the set with TDR specifically.
And they did talk about that on the stream, that in the design space for TDR when it was originally conceived was that there was some risk to this, right? You weren't digging 10 deep like you were with Vader, you're only digging 7 deep. So there was a chance that you missed. There was a chance that you didn't hit what you were looking for. And really, when you looked at like prior to jump to light speed, the one big card that you often wanted to hit in a yellow-red combination was Ruthless Raider, but that was kind of the only one that you really wanted to hit. Fetch Fire Spray was okay in there, but in that slot, but it was really you wanted to hit Ruthless Raider. But now with War Juggernaut, even IG 2000, obviously Devastator. Yeah, Devastator. I mean, Devastator is the big one, right? You now had so many targets that like your likelihood of missing was pretty much nil. And so like the downside,
you're gonna hit something, and you're gonna hit at least 3 for 3. Like you're gonna hit a card like 99 out of 100 times at this point. But like, and this set card made sense in the first 3 sets because you didn't have many space units. There was not that many space decks.
Yeah.
Right. So vehicles specifically, you're right. And so we weren't seeing this card being played as much because of that. But now with Jump to Light Speed and being so focused on the vehicles and the space arena, there's just no missing. And when you have a card that's only 3 cost and you get to play it and keep the card afterwards. That's just so strong. Like,
should have been at least a legendary. Sorry.
Right. I mean, you get to play War Juggernaut, and then you get to play it again the next turn potentially. Like if you play it at like 5, it's like it's so
off of a sneak attack. But yeah.
But
look,
resources, and then you turn to 6, and you're in. You're good.
Well, you could potentially flip it on 4, right? So you could
even do it earlier, and then play it back, and then play another one if you get another one. It's like you could play Juggernaut 3 turns in a row, but by the time. It's just game over at that point.
No. Look, like I said, I'm not going to disagree. I'm not going to disagree that it's a strong card. I'm not going to disagree that it was a problem, particularly with Django. Now, do I think that in the other archetype, without Django, is it as big of a problem? That was where my argument on this comes down.
It is absolutely.
I think there is an argument that it is. I think you could also say that without Django, you're not tapping a board. There's opportunity for counterplay against it. Now, with that being
when
said,
you have
it's
a
still
card
very,
that comes out on
it's still
turn
very
5
fun.
that can do 13 damage on turn 5, like for any yellow villain deck, that's crazy.
Yellow, red, but yes.
Sure.
But look, like I said, I'm not going to say that it's not a strong card and the ban is not warranted. But like I said, they also, well, and sorry, again, I should be specific there. It's not a ban, it is a suspension. Now that being said, it's effectively a ban, but there's a possibility that some of these cards come off of the suspension list, but I definitely don't think Django will be one of those. TDR maybe as the meta moves.
I don't know how you think TDR is so much like better to have in the game than Django.
Well, because you're not creating a space where your opponent doesn't get to do anything against you despite that. But okay, look, regardless, it's a good thing. I'm not gonna argue that it's bad. That it was not a strong card and it was not something they could do. But again, that's just
Well,
that's just what it is. We gotta find new archetypes now.
Preaching to the choir preaching to the choir. Like I think it's almost unanimous that those 3 cards at a minimum were very disruptive to pleasurable gameplay.
Here, I don't think DJ is as bad as
I actually do though.
Yeah,
Really?
I actually do. Yeah.
No, I know you do, and I think for me. I think that with DJ specifically, it is played in one specific deck. But
here's the thing: that one specific deck is keeping an entire archetype out of the game.
No, I understand that, and I get it. But all you need to do is say you can't destroy the resource that you take, right? So, like the only thing you need to do is change the rule to say you can't destroy a resource that you stole, right? So it's a rule change that could have been made instead of because he's the only one that it's devastating to have that happen to, because you can deal with as soon as he's gone from any other deck, you get your resource back.
Look, I think the problem with that is, and this is the problem with all physical card games, is that that's effectively an errata, and they've
done errata. I don't know. They've already done errata.
Done errata. No. They've done errata.
They don't even have to change the text on the card.
But they've done errata to clarify rulings. They've not changed text on the card, and it's about interpretation of the wording on the card, not changing the way that the effect works. The problem with
that doesn't have to change. It says destroy a resource, right? But you cannot. All you have to do is change the rule that says you cannot destroy a resource you didn't originally own. That's it. That's all you have to say.
So that's
super simple.
Potential proposal instead of just like a ban, like
I'm not against the ban. Like I think it's good because we needed that. I guess like you were saying, Rob, you need that out of the game because the archetype is destroying a complete third of like people's play styles, right? There's no heart control because Han is doing better heart control and is a better aggro deck than aggro deck sometimes. So it's like better at both sides being a mid-range deck. So I get it. I'm just saying that is the only leader that it's really causing this whole thing to happen, and that is because the leader is so strong. Right? So is it the leader or is it the card?
And they did talk about Han still potentially being on the suspension watch list, or not potentially, is on the suspension watch list still. They decided not to because they think
once you take DJ away, is it gonna
have the impact, and they want to wait and see on that one. Now, what I will say is that I do think that it's a good thing. And again, for those of you who didn't watch the FFG stream, the reasoning behind one of the other reasons behind the DJ ban is not just that it was overperforming, and it was, but it's that the interaction in the play loop there is very problematic that early in the game. So the difficulty is that because of how early that combo can come out, if you are going to counter it, and there were counters to it, but if you were going to counter it, you basically had to wait for your opponent to do it, whether or not they had it. And you had to assume that they had it, which meant that you were holding your resources or holding a play or playing suboptimally in anticipation of your opponent maybe
I don't have a
doing it.
problem with any of that.
But on
Do
turn,
you not do that
the
with
problem
Sabine? Do you not do that with Tech? Do you not do that with other cards?
but not to this effect. Because
Like,
the problem is that
I
if
know I'm
you
playing a Sabine with Darksaber. I
Well,
had to be
no,
ready
but
to
see,
deal
but
with that. No?
but Corey, I think the thing with this one is that Han allows you to play above curve. So
Yes.
you're not only are you playing above curve, you're forcing your opponent to play below curve, and that interaction
No, I
because of
understand that. They
DJ.
talked about that. Get
Yeah.
it. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
there are cards, and TDR for one, we talk about. It's like you had to be ready for it and had to play for it. And the thing is, for this card specifically, I don't think is as bad. I do, like, again, I don't think it's wrong for them to ban it. I am perfectly fine with this. Suspension they call it. I just think it didn't need the other two. I agree completely. I wanted that. This one I didn't think it needed to be, but I'm not opposed to it.
There was potentially other avenues of approach that could have been taken, aka errata, right? To not just clarify, but to actually change some of the rulings, so to make that card not bannable, but like depower it a little bit. Right? That's what you're saying.
Right, and then
Yeah.
it didn't again. You didn't have to like say, "Oh, this card text doesn't make sense anymore." Like, it's just a rule, an overall rule that was essentially. It's like, oh yeah, you can't destroy a resource you just gained.
Yeah. Then that would change the Han leader's ability.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, no, it
I think
doesn't
it's
change
just
his ability at all either. He still has to destroy a resource. It just has to be his own.
Yeah, I think it's just the problem is with new players coming to the game. Like, look, for everybody who plays in a competitive environment, we're going to know about this, but it's for players who don't come into that environment, who aren't familiar with it, who are new to the game, and you're going to come out, and they're going to be like, oh, I'm going to do this thing, and you're like, no, actually, you can't do that because of Rule 37, subsection C, that was errated, 2 years ago.
Yeah,
You're
right. I mean, it's like having a codex in like a Warhammer like tabletop game. Like, there's all these changes that like might occur or something, right?
Yeah, it's one
and that's
thing.
part of the reason that they doing full card expansions. So I get that.
Yeah. So look, like I said, I'm not gonna in the same way that I wasn't arguing that I think TDR needed to be or is worthy of the ban. I think you're kind of saying the same thing, just difference of opinion of maybe how they went about it. But either way, I think this is healthy for the game because it does open up, or opens back up, I should say, some play styles that really we haven't seen. Like we haven't seen a hard control deck be dominant or really in the top.
Boss Blue won.
Boss Blue did win, but that's because it's not. It's a. Django has a
Django.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. So we don't want to talk about the Django TDR.
We beat this
DJ ban because everyone talks about. There's like a bajillion videos about it already.
Yes.
So we could talk about what the meta is going to look like. I'll go first because this is like a topic that I'm springing on you guys like I always do. But I did mention like months ago that I thought with the rise of Django, right, there was going to be a rise of hard control to counter because Django was suppressing. No, I did. Check the tape.
Check the tape.
I think both did. We both did.
We both did. Anyway, so we're both right. I will say that the way it's going about is different now because it was a DJ ban. But I will say we're going to see a rise of hard control, and it's going to be wild. Because we haven't played against it for like 4 months, and it's going to be all of the.
Well, that's the thing is we're gonna the Sabine decks I think are gonna come back a little bit more. Aggro because the hard control is coming back. So when you have hard control, you need the aggro is also going to come, right? So I agree there completely, but I'm excited for like Palp. I think Palp could come back being strong. Obviously, he's my favorite leader.
He's coming back.
Excited to see what can happen with him again.
I'm probably going to be playing Palp. I think I don't know for certain, but Colossus,
Colossus.
yeah, Colossus really breathes life into him.
Yeah,
Oof,
it is brutal. But
it's
Colossus
rough.
as a as a base is so friggin' strong. It's
Yeah,
wild.
for again for and then for those of you who are not in this, Colossus is a base that gives you 35 health. The downside to it is that you only draw 5 cards on your initial draw, which
Yeah.
really isn't much of a downside,
But like,
frankly, in a hard control deck.
yeah, and the thing is the purity of it all is like all the blue cards are like Sentinel or Restore or some type of
Or
defeat,
draw
like,
cards.
or draw cards.
Hmm.
Like Boss Blue, you can just like, with a Boss Blue deck, you can just Death Mark and then take the reward and get 4 cards back. You can do Pershing. There's like so many answers to like that problem of only losing 1 card in your starting hand that it really doesn't
Nope.
even. It's like nominal. You know what I mean?
And it is
So,
the most health differential of all
Yes.
the new bases, like going
oh
upwards, right?
Yeah, it's
yeah,
the
Because Data
largest
Vault's
base.
33, Lake Country's 34. So,
Yep.
yeah.
and I mean, yeah, it's if you couldn't mulligan, maybe it's bad, it's worse. But because you get to mulligan still,
Yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think it's good. I think the my other boy that I was kind of hoping might be okay if I was not going to be playing Django. If Django just got the ban, was going to be Piet, but I think ultimately uh, Help just kind of does it better. Frankly, like with Piet, you're running a little bit more mid range because you're trying to put more, frankly, triangles into it. I'm using a colloquialism to say capital ships because all of the imperial capital ships are space triangles. But you're running a lot of triangles to basically get there faster. The problem is that Palp is running more hard control typically, and then on top of it, you're like, cool, I dropped this thing on curve or above curve a little bit early, but Palp is also super ramping, and then so Palp flips and just steals one of your triangles, and it's a sad day.
Yeah. I know. I don't know. Yeah, you know what, Palp? You're gonna Palp Blue specifically. Colossus
Yeah,
can it can get it can outrange the aggro because the aggro gets to 30 health and then turn over
and you
like
still have 5 health left.
you
Yeah,
still have 5 health left, and which is enough to like survive another hit or two. Drop like a reinforcement walker, drop whatever you want at the end of the day.
yep.
Yep.
Anakin Blue, I've always been a strong believer in that. We have in McClunky, there's Kwai-Shan Jin, who's like advocated for that deck and has performed really well with multiple top 8s, top 2s,
With
top 4s. Like,
Colossus, it's a problem.
yeah, and without even Colossus, it is gonna be so strong.
Yeah,
Now
you don't even
the
have to
thing
change
is
much.
that
Just give them 5 more health to deal with. You
yeah,
give
I mean that's
Yeah,
literally
amazing.
all you do. You just switch out the base and maybe a couple extra cards. But
Mhm.
I do
yeah,
think that here's the thing though. I do think that Anakin Blue is going to suffer if hard control sees a rise because what Anakin Blue is doing is dropping is really wanting to drop like one big thing a turn and control just eats that, steals that lunch money all day long.
yeah. I
It's
mean,
like, cool, you drop something for 5 and then I blew it up.
I guess it depends on the how you structure it because I can imagine a world where you're going hand destruction side and then and crate dragons, you know,
Mhm.
and like what is the hard control deck going to do at that point? I mean,
Yeah, everything they do is gonna
Right, they're gonna
hurt.
hurt themselves.
fell the dragon.
Yeah, hell, it's going to hurt
Well,
them.
not if they don't have cards in their hand.
You know,
Just keep
Yeah,
we'll see.
pillaging
yeah.
them.
What
Yeah.
other I know we've been talking about this for a little bit, but are there any other decks or deck types out there do you think are going to do well? I mean, you said Sabine, you guys are both believers in Palp. I think Anakin Blue Colossus is going to start to dominate. It's already
Oh, I think it's going to
doing
be a thing still.
Is there any other decks you think are going to be good?
I'm
So
curious. Like there was a Leia deck that looked interesting,
mhm.
and I'm curious to see if we're going the aggro route now here. Doing like a rebel aggro Leia deck could be pretty interesting.
Just the green with the Lake Country, like the one that topped
Not
the.
necessarily just the because that was interesting, but I think losing that aspect hurts a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But like going aggro, green, red, um, with Leia, it was
what
good in
what
set
about
one. It didn't like keep pace with Sabine, but we got a lot of rebels here now.
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
it could do something.
What about your boy Gil or your girl Gil Hera with Lake Country?
No, I don't believe in it. I see
You
people
don't
doing
believe in
it.
it?
But like, if I was gonna build a Hera deck, I've tested out a lot of things. I think Hera Cunning is probably the best one, to do that can do work. Because
Hmm.
the green combination is just a little too slow and there's no removal. Um, just not enough, right? The red one, if you're gonna go green red, why not just play Sabine, or why not just play like
Yeah.
Helea, right, or any other great
Yeah.
combination. The blue is interesting, I think, but then like again, it's one of those things like why not just play Luke and give yourself shields, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
No.
Lando could be good too.
Yeah.
Also.
Lando.
Lando's
I
gonna,
think Lando's
Lando
gonna.
is gonna have some legs, I think too. There's a guy
Yeah.
in a lot of our discords that is advocating for Lando, and
I
I haven't
mean,
played
it's
it
a lot
yet, but
easier to get the shields out than you think. Like, it's pretty, like, I thought it was going to be harder to get those shields to come out, but because you can put on anything instead of having to be like a heroic with Luke or whatever the restrictions are, uh, it's actually pretty, like, especially in the limited that I played in
really,
RSG, like, he was doing really well against
Yeah.
other decks.
My only concern is that it's the same thing that I've been concerned about. Where like I was looking at Gar Saxon, and it's a little bit the same problem. It's like, okay, you put a shield out, but if we see a rise in hard control, it's slow, and control just says, okay, cool, you put a shield, I'm going to blow it up.
yeah, like of
You know,
removal of some
single
sort.
target removal. Yeah, so it's like you put all your eggs in one basket, and then they're like, okay, cool, I kill that thing. You know, like that's where it's that's where it's going to suffer. Now, if there's an angle where Lando is able to kind of play a little bit of that control game, then maybe. But it sounds like I haven't seen the specific build, but it sounds like you want to kind of run him a little bit more mid rangey, and I don't know if that's gonna play out as well. But Palp should and again, I think the main reason is going to be because Palp is going to be a problem. But as you rightfully point out, I think Sabine will see a little bit of a rise again, but is she going to be able to burn through 35 health, whereas before you had to only
Right,
burn through
that's the
30?
problem.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
And I think to that point, we may see some like real. The other thing we may see is some real like super fast aggro, seeing if like if that can maybe do it. I'm still toying around with Von Reg.
You get a super swarm deck with Vader and
Yeah, like a Super Swarm deck with
I
Vader is a possibility.
Ooh, I want to make the new Vader work too. I need to figure out a way to do it. Because that just seems exciting. I did pull a showcase, but I think I'm gonna trade it. I'm gonna get some other
Okay.
Yeah.
showcases in it.
Yeah.
For him
in return.
in
I-
return.
I think the concern with the new Vader is that that deck is very very reliant upon Victor Leader, which is a 2/4.
Yeah.
It's not the
I-
only thing it's reliant on, but it's kind of that's the crux
It's
of that.
it's a strong pump like to have just as a
Mhm.
unit that like because you have already these TIE fighters gets astronomically stronger and there's no board wipe that early to deal with it, right? So
Yeah.
I get it. Imagine if there was like a red 3 version of it where they got raid as well. That would be so sick. But maybe this is what maybe with Victor Leader and stuff. This is also where you have unity of purpose.
Double green, Jesus.
No, I was kidding. All right.
Mhm.
I feel like we've burned through a lot of like this meta conversation. Because right now it's all speculation. We have no idea what's gonna happen.
And we've got 2 weeks until we see like competitively what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because it's not because what is it? Or not? It's not
Richmond.
DC. It's wherever it is. It's Richmond.
Richmond.
Richmond's not for another 2 weeks.
Yeah. So
End of the month.
end of the month. And so when I come back from that as a champion, I'll tell you what.
With your Obi deck?
Dude, I thought about making a new OB deck. For not an ECL version, just a 30-point base one. Maybe
Data
even,
Vault? I mean,
Data Vault. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe even data vault because that would be sick. I should tool around with that. I've tried to go to like the cunning side of things, but it just doesn't feel right with Obi-Wan. He You know.
Yeah, no, you got to get that vault, that data vault, man. Get those 60 cards in that deck. Be like a European and just play way over.
I love, I
Like,
love the Europeans. They're so fun, they're so friendly. I wish I could go back to.
yeah, definitely not putting them down. I think it's great. Like this deck, they don't care about the percentage. Like, I want this card in the deck. Let's put it in. Like I'm at 54. Sure, let's go.
Yeah, I would love to. I can't wait till Galactic Championships. Now that we're kind of talking about the end of the meta, but like conversation, I can't wait for the Galactic Championships where we can actually have all like everyone across the world like playing this game. That would be sick. I'm so excited for that.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, man. And then who knows? Might get a bunch of more casual people wandering about because of the mass market packs.
Oh yeah,
So,
I do think this first Galactic Championship. I know Gil, you were a little bit down on the last one about like the fanfare around this, but I think you're gonna get your fill of that at the Galactic Championships.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
maybe.
And then the week after is Gen Con, which apparently there's gonna be some super special events there as well, like new types of events for Gen Con.
You know what's a surprise? It's a little like I expected, but we haven't seen was a Light Side Con exclusive pack. I thought we would have.
Maybe that's this year.
Well, I thought we would have heard about it by now.
Maybe they're going to announce it at the Galactic Championships.
Oh, that get that hype so that people just fly over and just skip work for another week.
Or they have limited quantities of it there, maybe.
Oh, that's another thing that's gonna be even harder to get, like, because people, if
those promos are gonna be,
the promo is gonna be so hard to obtain. But that's a problem for next week. Next week's podcast.
All I'm saying is I want those super laser blasts.
Oh my god, yeah. All right, guys.
The Snoke looks pretty sick.
Yeah. A lot of those cards, a lot of the new cards looking so good. Okay, sorry, we had to stop. We gotta stop here. We can't go for the full hour. I don't want this podcast. I mean, maybe, I don't know if anyone has an opinion on that. Like, if you want like an hour long podcast, if that's better, let me know. But I've been trying to keep it around the 30 to 45 minute range. And I think that's pretty good.
It's our trademark. It's a staple of ours. So
yeah. We're like, okay, 30 to 45 is like you're casual and you're trying hard, but you're not like a try hard. That's
are we casual tryhards?
That's what I'm saying. Okay. Anyway, last thing before I let everyone go. Again, everyone who's listening, I appreciate everything. I appreciate it all. As always, I'll appreciate your feedback. I'll appreciate your comments, concerns, moans, whatever that might be. We're at 207 at this count was like over 270 subs in YouTube, and which is like really, really great. We're halfway there. Maybe we'll think about doing another survey for all the OG listeners, or survey, like raffle form, so that everyone who might have started to join can get more chances to get that convention pack, exclusive convention pack, 2024 anyway. So it would be
you could
cool.
say they're living on a prayer.
Living on a prayer. That's so funny. You got jokes today, man.
I got them all.
All right. With that, again, thank you all for listening, and until next time, may the force be with you.